film. Just wanted to, how long did it take to make this film? When did you start? And I think this is the first Indian film that I've seen which is, had such major research and a huge reach. I mean, I haven't seen so many investigative documentaries in India. So in that sense, it's another landmark. How long did it take, and tell me the process. I mean, yeah.
Well, this was a film I really wasn't intending to make. I started, initially, the story came to my attention when I was working on a movie in Sri Lanka in 2004. And then, through a series of happy kind of coincidences, I got to know Dr. Hamid and some of the other people. This elderly gentleman, Bill Haddad, I got to know him quite well. He was the one that sort of spun the yarn for me, because he's this natural storyteller. He's written about 20 books, and he used to be this old school investigative sort of gumshoe journalist in the US. And I developed a really intense personal interest in this story, not with any sort of idea of making a film about it. And I was really shocked and frustrated how little there was out there about it. There would have been contemporary news reports, which were very sort of the moment. There was no real book or film dealing with this at all. And it was interesting when I did read about it. It was clear that with trips and these other things that were happening, that this was just going to happen again. And all of these people had died, and nothing had been learned, and they just sort of been lost to memory somehow, which was pretty hard to take. I kind of felt like I had to do something, but I didn't think I was the person to do it. So actually I tried to interest some documentarist friends of mine in sort of taking on this project, and I said, I'll do whatever I can to help. And they were all like, this is going to take years to do. So I said, no, it won't, but it did. So finally, on June 7th, 2007, I woke up, and I was actually in prep on another movie, on a film, a fiction film that I was meant to be directing, and I woke up that day, I don't know why, and I just felt like I have to do this film. I can't wait another 2 years because I'd already started to reach out to a few of the people, and it was clear they were forgetting the details of what had happened, because already sort of, 5 to 10 years had passed, and nobody asked them about it. If they were asked about things, they were asked about what was happening at that moment. So there were already sort of discrepancies that were popping up between the different accounts, and I said, look, this is in a very dangerous moment. It really has to be now. So the very first thing I did is actually go and interview the people that I thought were really important, where there was no written record, just to make sure that at least there weren't a few more days passing by, allowing them to forget the details, because the details were quite important. And most of the interviews I did were at least 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours long. So, there was, all the detail tended to come out in sort of after 2 hours.
And these are people in India, or?
A few people in India, but, South Africa was sort of that, for me, is the heart of the movie, and I always felt like that's really where we had to start. It's kind of the only country where there was just a cataclysm of HIV on the one side, and also on the other side there was a very, very strong intellectual response to this pandemic. It's quite unique in that respect. And people like Zaki and Edwin Cameron, Desmond Tutu, and various others, even Mandela, belatedly, were very, very important sort of philosophical figures in this whole story, in this debate. So I felt very strongly that South Africa was the place we really had to focus the initial energies. And I have to say, it was smart. That was one of the very few smart things I did. I did a lot of really stupid things. To come back to your question, how long it took about 5.5 years to make the film, in part because I didn't know what I was doing at all. Never really made a documentary. And also I have to say, I didn't really, probably arrogantly or stupidly, I didn't really reach out to the documentary community here. So I felt like I was very alone, and it was a real struggle in that respect. Also, putting the narrative together was very, very complicated, because it was constantly changing. And things that initially, when I did my research, that seemed extremely important to me, with the passage of time were not that important, yet other things suddenly became important. And then while we were shooting, there were certain characters that came up, like Dr. Mujani, this Ugandan doctor, who for whatever reason was not on my radar and is actually not all that well known outside of Africa. But, you know, somebody I knew from Uganda actually gave me a copy of this book that he'd written, which was only published in Uganda. And it was just incredible. You know, it was a really amazing first-hand account. His moral authority is incredible, his perspective on things. So when we showed the film at Sundance, we actually brought him over. And it was really, I mean, I felt like this was the first time he was really getting public recognition outside of Uganda, and he was such an important person in all of this. And for me, it was also very important that it be an African person that, you know, that we sort of, you know, put out there as a symbol of this entire struggle. So, yeah, I think I've meanderingly answered parts of your question.